It's Randy Orton. Oh.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.
Hey guys, what's up? Mr. Beef Late Night here, and today I'm going to be doing my awards for the WWE in 2015. Without further ado, let's get on to the categories. So we've got Breakout Team, Most Improved Superstar, Show of the Year, Underutilized Talent of the Year, Most Surprising Match of the Year, Underwhelming Match of the Year, Worst Raw of the Year, Overrated Pay-Per-View of the Year, Underrated Pay-Per-View / Event of the Year, Worst Pay-Per-View Ending, Best Pay-Per-View Ending, Worst Pay-Per-View, Best NXT Event, Best Pay-Per-View, Worst Pay-Per-View Theme, Best Pay-Per-View Theme, Wrestler Theme of the Year, Tag Team of the Year, Faction of the Year, Breakout Star, Feud of the Year, Announcer of the Year, Diva of the Year, Superstar of the Year, and the Match of the Year. So let's get started with Breakout Team. Now with Breakout Team, I would also consider this team to be the most improved team of the year, in my opinion. And I would have to go with Dash and Dawson from NXT. These guys, when they first came on the scene as a team, they were one of those teams that I remember, at least from my memory, started off as sort of jobber team. Like they used to put over other teams, and then they started to be built as a credible team, starting to beat opponents and stuff. And then they beat Cass and Enzo in a match before NXT Takeover Brooklyn. They started to be built up fairly well, and they beat the Vaudevillains in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and then they'd go on to challenge them later for the NXT Tag titles, and they won them, and they're still the champions at the moment at recording this video. So how have they improved? Basically, at first when Dash and Dawson first came on the scene and started getting the push, I was just a bit kind of... I wasn't a fan. I thought they were just boring. But they've really started to grow on me. I like the kind of old school mentality, brainbuster-esque team. It's kind of so it's very rough style, not flashy, just hard hitting but effective. And I really like that. I think that, there aren't really any teams like that anymore. So it's good to have something kind of original on the tag team scene, which I really like. I think they've got their gimmicks down pretty well now, and they're very, I'd say as a heel team, they're very over in terms of heel heat. So I'd have to say Dash and Dawson as the breakout team and most improved. When it comes to most improved superstar, I'm going to do one from the main roster and one from NXT. So the most improved from the main roster, I would have to go with Roman Reigns, easily. I mean, the guy's always been good in the ring, in my opinion, but I think this year he's really stepped up and really improved in the ring as the years gone by. Like he had, he's had some he's had some really good matches, like matches with Lesnar, Bray Wyatt. The match with Sheamus on Raw was actually pretty good as well. Matches with the 4-way at Payback, and Roman Reigns has been one of those guys who had some really good matches, in my opinion, and he's proved that he actually can work in the ring, and that he's not someone who's just being carried, if it were. So I'd have to say Roman Reigns is definitely the most improved in the ring, and overall as well, since the start of 2015. For NXT, there's two guys who I really think have improved leaps and bounds this year. I couldn't decide, so I'm going to cheat here and go for like two separate people. The first person for NXT is Baron Corbin. This guy, since he's become a heel, he's really kind of, he's really embraced his heel persona. From what I've heard, he's really enjoying being a heel. He loves being a heel. And the guy is improving in the ring every time. He's getting better and better in the ring, in my opinion. His finish is wicked as well. The End of Days. It's a really it's a really good finisher in my opinion. I love the look of it. Just a really good finisher, and it looks genuinely devastating. And the guy's just improved as well. He's developed his character more. We know a bit more about him as well. So I think Baron Corbin has really improved overall. But another guy who I think has really improved as well is Jason Jordan. Now, when he broke off from that team with Ty Dillinger, I kind of thought Jordan's not really going to do anything. He'll probably get released soon. But what they did was they had him try and find a new tag partner, and you know, it was interesting in the sense of, you know, and obviously they were building it to be Chad Gable, and eventually they did team up, and ever since then I think Jordan's really improved. Not just necessarily in the ring, but he's just improved it as a character, and he's just become much more likable. Because beforehand, I used to think Jason Jordan was pretty boring, and there was nothing special about him. But ever since he started teaming with Gable, like, he's really, you know, I actually like him now. I'd say Jordan is one of my favourite guys now on the main roster because of the team he's formed with Gable. They're so fun to watch, and Jordan really just gets across more of a personality with Gable, and it's just a perfect chemistry together, in my opinion. For show of the year, so this is the shows that I'm including are Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and it's obvious I'm going to pick NXT. This has easily been the best show of the year. There was a period where it wasn't as great as it was at the start of the year and the end of the year. That kind of period after Rival, that period was a bit slow, but still it was much better than anything Raw and SmackDown were producing, and it's still a developmental show, and I think it's really proved that it's quality over quantity. NXT's only an hour, whereas Raw is 3 hours and SmackDown's like 2 hours, which really proves that, you know, if you put the quality into a 1 hour show, it can be better than, you know, a 2 hour or 3 hour show. So I'd easily have to go with NXT as the show of the year. Next, underutilized talent of the year. This one's probably pretty obvious, isn't it? Cesaro. This guy has all the talent in the ring. He's got that physique, he's got the build to be a major player, and the guy is over. He's over with the crowd. You know, they love everything that he does, especially that swing. That's what really got him over, and ever since that, people have really just come to love Cesaro. And there was small signs of him getting a push in the summer of 2015. Had some matches with Cena and Kevin Owens, but WWE just never saw. You know, I think why they don't push Cesaro is they just don't get why he's over, and you know, it's a real shame because the guy's got talent. The crowd love him still, you know, and the guy's really been underutilized in my opinion. I think this guy could easily be built into the main event scene if they ever needed him to be. So yeah, I would definitely say Cesaro's the most underutilized talent of the year. Most surprising match of the year. This one I had to think about for a bit. But I think I would have to go with Roman Reigns versus The Big Show. I know not everyone was a fan of this match, but I actually thought it was a pretty good match. I actually think it was a pretty damn good match. Like, you know, this match had no right to be any good at all. But again, you've got to give credit to Roman Reigns. You know, Big Show is one of those guys, especially in his later years, who's not known for having great matches. And Reigns managed to pull off a pretty damn good match. So I think that says, you know, leaps and bounds about how good Reigns is. You know, a really good last man standing match. Honestly, did not expect it to be as good as it was, and you know what? Yeah, I definitely have to say that is the most surprising match of 2015. Most underwhelming match, Lesnar and Rollins easily. The match was 9 minutes. It was getting pretty good. Like, you know, I think if the match had gone on longer, it could have been a really good match. But the fact that it was just the first 9 minutes of a Lesnar match, it never really got going. It's just a real shame because I think these guys could have had a tremendous match. You know, Rollins had some really good matches, and would go on to have even more great matches in 2015. You know, but unfortunately we didn't get one with Lesnar, which is a real shame because I think these guys could have had an epic match, but unfortunately we didn't get that. Worst Raw of the year? You know, I'm really not sure. There's just too many to pick. I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but there's so many. There have been so many bad Raws this year. It's really hard to label one, so I can't unfortunately label one. Raw of the year. This one was tough. I think a lot of people will say the most recent Raw was the best one of the year, but I think I'll go with the post SummerSlam Raw. I actually think that was a really good episode of Raw. You had Sting return, the Dudleys return, and I just think there was some really good, build up for Night of Champions as well. And it was just a enjoyable show. Like, I think it was definitely the best Raw of the year, in my opinion. That's about it, really. I've got to say, to be honest. Most overrated pay-per-view of the year for WWE. The thing is, this show that I'm putting as overrated, I actually like the show. So, you know, because I think in 2015, most people, I think my opinion has reflected that of a lot of people's, for the most part. So, I think when it comes to overrated pay-per-views or events, so this is including NXT events as well, I think I'll have to go Night of Champions. Like, I've seen people say that this was one of the better pay-per-views of 2015. I personally disagree. I think it was, a good show. I think you had 2 good matches, and the undercard was okay. But I think some people overrated the show and saying, no, it was a really good show, one of the best of 2015. I would disagree with that, and I think that's why I'd say it's the most overrated. But it's not a bad show at all, to be honest. Next, underrated pay-per-view event of the year. This was a tough one, to be honest, because usually most pay-per-views have gotten the praise that they deserve. But I think, especially, this is me thinking towards the future as well. I think a show that people will forget about how good it is, and I know people may disagree with me on this, and people say, oh no, everyone acknowledges this is a good show, but I'm going to go with NXT TakeOver Respect. It was a really good show, and I think people are going to forget, and kind of already have forgotten, of how good of a show that was. Like, you had people will remember the Iron Woman match, of course, but you also had some really solid undercard matches as well. Like Apollo Crews versus Tyler Breeze, and Jordan and Gable versus Corbin and Rhino, as well, I think. And the undercard of the tournament was really good. There was just a really solid card overall. Nothing really to complain about, and that's why I think NXT TakeOver Respect gets slightly underrated in my opinion. Worst pay-per-view ending. This was a tough one, because there's 2 pay-per-views I already had in mind, and I think I'd probably have to go with the Sheamus cash-in. I know a lot of people will throw the Rumble in there, and trust me, I think the Rumble ending was stupid, but, I just think with Sheamus cashing in, there was just so many problems with it. Like, it was essentially just taking a mid-carder, putting him in, and putting the world title on him. They didn't create any new top heels. They didn't have Ambrose or Reigns turn heel. I just think it was dumb and lazy. And Sheamus's reign, we'd go on to be proven that Sheamus's reign was a waste of time anyway, because he lost it, a few weeks later anyway. So I just think it was just a stupid thing having Sheamus cash in, which is a real shame, because I think if he could have done well as world champion if built correctly after winning Money in the Bank, but no, which I think is a real shame. So I think Sheamus winning the title is probably the worst pay-per-view ending of the year, and if people have said Royal Rumble, I could agree with that as well. Best pay-per-view ending, WrestleMania 31, easily. The Rollins cash-in was great. No one had cashed in the main event of WrestleMania. No one had cashed in during a match before. And it was just a great moment to see Rollins win the title on the big stage of WrestleMania. So yeah, that's it basically. Worst pay-per-view of the year, I'll have to go with the Royal Rumble. I think this show was just poor. It was very bad. You had one really classic match up here, the triple threat for the WWE World Heavyweight title. That was tremendous. But the undercard was pure shit. Like, you had a decent match between the Usos and Mizdow, to be fair. But the rest was just, pointless. You had, like, Paige and Natalya taking on the Bellas, and the New Age Outlaws against the Ascension. Like, exactly. It was just stupid. And was that it? I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I'm missing some matches from that card, but I don't think I am. But yeah, this show was terrible. Aside from that world title match, none of the other matches were that good or that memorable, really. So I'd have to say the worst pay-per-view of the year is the Royal Rumble. NXT event of the year, Brooklyn, TakeOver Brooklyn. That was a tremendous show. The classic women's match between Sasha and Bayley, the ladder match between Finn Balor and Kevin Owens. Also, Tyler Breeze versus Jushin Thunder Liger. And then I would also say Vaudevillains versus Blake and Murphy. That was pretty underrated and fun as well. This show was just a lot of fun. Like, the crowd was into it. The matches were incredible. The atmosphere was just tremendous as well, in my opinion. I think that NXT special is going to be tough to beat because, I mean, I think the event that came close, that was close to being as good as it was Rival. I think this takes the cake over it slightly. NXT Brooklyn was tremendous. I had a lot of fun watching the show. Just had a great feel to it. Now my pay-per-view of the year. A lot of people probably disagree with me on this, but I'm gonna have to go with SummerSlam. I know a lot of people say WrestleMania, and I can see why. But I think why I'm going for SummerSlam is because WrestleMania lacked that kind of classic matchup, in my opinion. Whereas with SummerSlam, you had the Cena and Rollins had a classic match. Undertaker and Lesnar had a really good match despite a shit finish. Cesaro and Kevin Owens also had a really good match. I just think the card was really a lot of fun at SummerSlam, with not really any bad matches when I really think about it. I mean, the only real bad match was... Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even consider the triple threat for the IC title that bad. I think it was 5 minutes and it was okay. I think that's the only amount of time they needed, really. So, I would say SummerSlam, just, in my opinion. Worst pay-per-view theme of the year. I went for Fastlane. I think this was a pretty awful theme. I believe it was by Wiz Khalifa. This was just a terrible song. It's not the kind of song that suits a pay-per-view theme. It just wasn't. And the song is just shit anyway. And I'm not really a fan of rap anyway, but I think Wiz Khalifa's just a poor. I've never been a fan of Wiz Khalifa's music, to be honest. I think he's just not a very good rapper, in my opinion, and this song is just poor, and that's all I've got to say, really. But the pay-per-view theme of the year, for me, would have to be Payback, and that song is Friction by Imagine Dragons. That is a really good song. It's so catchy, and, it's just it kind of set the tone for Payback quite well, in my opinion, as well. It set the tone of the pay-per-view very well, and it's just a really good song in general. I think it's the kind of song that I also listen to outside of wrestling. Like, I have it saved on my iTunes and stuff. I listen to it occasionally, and it's just a really good song. But I will say, I think this year really lacked good pay-per-view themes. I think a lot of the pay-per-view themes were pretty poor, in my opinion. I mean, there were some good ones, but there were also some pretty bad ones. But I think Payback was my pay-per-view theme of the year. Next, wrestler theme of the year. Now, one thing I've noticed is a lot of the NXT themes, I think, are actually really good, but when they change the main roster themes, sometimes they're quite shit, which is interesting because it's done by the same person, like CFO Money, which is interesting. But for for wrestler theme of the year, I think I'll have to go with Finn Balor. I love the entrance theme. It really suits his entrance as well. It really sets the tone very well, and I love the guitar in it as well. And it's just a really well put together song, and it really kind of amps you up. And yeah, I really love this song. So I think I'll definitely have to go with Finn Balor's theme song as the theme of the year. Tag team of the year. It's obviously New Day. These guys have been the shining lights in a shit period in WWE. If I'm gonna be honest, 2015 has not been a good year, but New Day have been kind of one of the saving graces of this year. And I'll also give New Day faction of the year as well, because there's 3 of them technically. I just think the Wyatt family are the only other really real faction I could think of, really. who could possibly be a contender for Faction of the Year, but the Wyatt family have been booked so poorly this year, apart from the 2 wins over the ECW team. But, you know, I just think New Day, because there's 3 of them, they count as a faction. So I'll say New Day is Tag Team of the Year and Faction of the Year. Breakout star, have to go with Kevin Owens. You know, the guy came up from NXT, beat Cena clean on his first WWE main roster match, which, you know, and he did tremendous things in NXT when he came in as well. Won the title off Sami Zayn. You know, I think the guys really settled in well into the main roster. Won the IC title. Unfortunately lost it to Ambrose, but I wasn't too angry about that. And, you know, this guy, I could see Kevin Owens potentially maybe going to the main event at some point, because the guy is talented. The guy's talented in the ring. He's very athletic for a guy his size. And, you know, he's just a great heel as well, and a great character. And there's a lot of stuff about Kevin Owens I really like. And I think he's one of the guys from NXT who's really who's come out from NXT who could go on to do great things. So I'll go Kevin Owens for Breakout Star of the Year. Feud of the Year. Now, honestly, it was hard to think of great feuds from this year. There have been some good ones, mind you. But I think my personal favourite feud of the year would have to be Sasha Banks versus Bayley. I think that was a really well done feud. I think the build going into Brooklyn was really good. You know, you had the whole Sasha Banks saying how Bayley just wasn't good enough. And you had the whole Bayley, you know, scratching and clawing to get and earn a title shot. And then she wins, and then it's the whole Bayley proving, you know, how, you know, she'd earned Sasha's respect, but, you know, Sasha wants to prove that she's better than Bayley. And the you know, just the story was just so well told in that feud, in my opinion. Just and 2 tremendous matches as well from that feud. 2 classic matchups. So I think that's why I would give Sasha versus Bayley as the feud of the year. Now on to announcer of the year. So this is in terms of commentary. I'm not going to lie, the commentary this year has been absolutely shocking for WWE. Like, this guy who I'm giving as announcer of the year, he's not a tremendous announcer. Like, I think he's good. You know, he's a good announcer. He does his job well. He's definitely the least annoying of all of them. And I have to give that to Corey Graves. You know, Graves he's not a bad commentator. He's actually pretty decent. Better than any of the other commentators, in my opinion, on the main roster. Like, Cole sucks, so does Jerry, JBL as well. Byron Saxton's just shocking. Rich Brennan's okay, but I think Corey Graves is one of the guys who are on commentary who I actually, you know, I would say that I actually like him on commentary. So by default, I guess I'd have to say Corey Graves. Diva of the Year, Sasha Banks. You know, she won the NXT Women's title in February. You know, she went on to have some tremendous matches this year. She really evolved herself as a heel very well, with the boss character. Unfortunately, since coming to the main roster, she's been kind of held back and can't really show as much of her character as she did on NXT, which is a real shame because on NXT she was incredible. Like, in the ring, she was amazing. She was great at being that arrogant heel who thought she was, you know, who saw herself as the best. Just an incredible talent, and I hope she's in the WWE for years and years to come because she'll be a tremendous asset to the women's division. So my Diva of the Year, or Female of the Year, Sasha Banks. Superstar of the Year. This one was tough. I've been kind of changing my opinion on this between 2 people, but I think I will go with Seth Rollins. The guy was world champion for most of the year, from March to November. End of March to end of November. He, you know, he had tremendous matches as champion. Unfortunately, was booked pretty poorly. But I feel like, you know, this guy, he's been one of those guys who has really evolved. I think he's evolved well as a character. It's just a shame that it's just the booking that's held him back, in my opinion. But, you know, the guy's had tremendous matches, and he's, you know, You know, he has beaten some top names such as Sting. He beat Sting clean, and you know, he beat Ambrose as well. You know, so there was some established. You know, there was some sort of Rollins to a degree was established well, as I guess, but I feel like if he'd maybe won a few more matches clean, he could have been an even better. He could have been just, you know, have been a lot more of a credible champion, in my opinion. But I'll go Seth Rollins for Superstar of the Year. So the final award, I should say, Match of the Year. This year has been, honestly, the match quality in 2015 has been probably the saving grace of the WWE. I think if it wasn't for the match quality, this could have been, you know, it could have been even worse. And it's lucky that we have such a talented roster who can have some tremendous matches. So picking a match of the year was going to be really hard. But I think this one, I think most people will agree that it's a match of the year. Whether they think it is a different story. But I'm going with the triple threat from the Royal Rumble. I just love that match. Like, I think, you know, all three guys got their time to shine. And, you know, we saw the development of suplex, or not, well, Lesnar just suplexing for days. That, you know, well, it wasn't the start, obviously, it was at SummerSlam, but it was fun just to see Lesnar kill these two, but also see Rollins get some time to shine as well. It was just a really fun back and forth match. There were times where I genuinely thought Cena had the match won. Just really awesome match, just back and forth, back and forth. Like, once the match started, it was just, you know, they just went at it for the rest of the match. It's just incredible. So I think my match of the year would be the triple threat in the Royal Rumble. So I hope you guys enjoyed the my awards for the WWE in 2015. I hope to do this next year as well for 2016. So in the description there will be links to my second channel, Twitter, and Ask.fm if you haven't checked those out already. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe.